Crack a beer. It's open bar, and oh baby, we finally have the first release of the essential skills of a masculine presence.
Strong and wild, we rise up high. Conquer fears, won't let them reside. Heartbeats pound as we take the dive. Living now feels so alive. Heart steel veins glowing bright. Fitness God in the dead of night. Dating game, we got the sight. Crushing finance, career out of sight. Men of now, we own it true. Breaking chains, just me and you. Success stories everywhere. Living life beyond compare.
What is going on, everybody? I am so excited. We have been working on this project, working. Uh, RP Thor wrote this book, A Dominant Masculine Presence. And in this book, he defines what it means to live that way, something that we have kind of lost as men as society continues to push us to be weaker, softer, more emotional. And this project, the essential skills of a masculine presence, is bringing together the manosphere, Red Pill, all of these different people, and having them publish what essentially is going to be an encyclopedia of knowledge. And we have our first book. This guy, I mean, when you say overachiever, I don't know how else to put it, because Paul pulled this thing together and just put his head down and got it done in like record timing. September 14th, it's 4 days away. And that's the day that it releases. And so without further ado, I got to bring him on. How are you doing, Paul? I'm not hearing you. Oh shit! I must have clicked the wrong button.
No, I had the mute on. That's why.
Oh, okay.
I'm doing good. Yeah, it's a lot of work putting another book together. This one, I did sort of knuckle down and focus on this one, and I got this one out in record time. My first book took quite a bit longer, but but I'm just glad. I'm glad that this is ready to go. I'm glad that it's the first one in this series, and I'm really proud of it. I think this one, more than my first book, is going to change men's lives. It really will.
No, I like that. And I'm clicking the wrong camera buttons. I'm trying to get things figured out here. Kevin, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, sir. You know my mantra, no such thing as a bad day, even the bad things can happen. However, I've started the search again to look for a new house closer to everything to alleviate the 1 hour commute one way. And so I know some stressful days are ahead of me. But other than that, man, I'm doing great. Great to be here.
Love to hear it. So, Paul, the fuck's this book about?
It's about paradigms, you know?
But what's a paradigm? What does that mean?
A paradigm, it's nothing more than a series of habits and beliefs that you've built up over time, and you store it in your subconscious mind. And you won't, most people don't realize this, but like 95% of what we do on a daily basis is habit-based. We do it without any conscious thought at all. And all these beliefs and habits start being developed when you're a child. You know, when you're a small kid, you are a walking subconscious mind. When you're first born, you have no real conscious thought. You're just walking around, just absorbing everything in your environment. You're watching what your parents do. You're listening to what they say. And all of that goes in to develop these little programs that control your actions and control your results, control your emotions. And as you get a little bit older, you develop a conscious mind, and you also develop what's a psychic barrier that sort of protects that paradigm. You know, some people call it the ego. We call it in NLP a critical factor. And when you develop that and you develop your conscious mind, you start developing higher faculties, stuff like intuition, imagination, rationalization, stuff like that. And we start absorbing everything in our environment through our five senses, right? And that we've been doing that since we're little too, but that's how we sort of taking this information. But once we have a conscious mind, it goes into the conscious mind. And what happens is you can tell someone anything and they might consciously know it to be true, but if it's not in harmony with what their paradigm believes, they'll reject it. Their ego protection layer will reject it, right? So I might, and I use this as an example in the book, I could tell you that everybody has the potential to be rich. And you might know consciously, yeah, that's probably true because there's countless rags to riches stories out there. But if you don't believe it's true for you, you will reject it and you will act in a way that will keep you from being rich, right? You could win the lottery tomorrow, and what you'll do is you'll end up blowing it on frivolous things and you'll be back where you started within a couple of years. And that's what happens a lot. Most lottery winners don't become wealthy and retire and go off into the sunset. They are broke within a couple of years because they've never developed a paradigm of someone who's wealthy, right? So all that kind of stuff controls all of our aspects in our life.
I find it fascinating because that's one thing specifically, like the exact example that you just used, has been something that I have been dealing with a lot recently, where even though I am successful, it's like that imposter syndrome. But even though I'm successful and I've gotten to where I am, I don't think that I deserve it. And that can lead to self-destructive decisions. So that's fascinating how that works. And being able to identify when your paradigm is off and how to shift that mental model.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's really what the book is diving into, is how to shift where you are right now to where you want to be.
Right. And the way it's tailored, because it is a part of Thor's Masculine Presence series, is tailored towards developing a paradigm of someone that has a dominant masculine presence. So I do use examples of money a little bit in the beginning of the book, but then it shifts into changing your paradigm into someone that has a dominant masculine presence, someone who's assertive, someone that takes charge, someone who's a leader. And that's where, I have stories about my karate sensei in there to sort of expand on those themes. But I learned a lot of that kind of stuff from my karate instructor when I was little, because of, when I say little, I was like, 9, 10, 11 years old. Because of things that
hold on. Were you also bald then?
No.
I'm just keeping on you.
No, I had luscious locks, man. Yeah. Actually, when I met Nurse Chick a couple of years ago, I didn't shave my head yet. She knows what I look like with hair, I just have a really big 5 head. That's
some people have 4 heads, you got 5.
That's right. I got an extra. But yeah, so the book really is about, developing the dominant masculine presence. Now I will give you an example of a way to tell when your paradigm needs to be looked at. So I recently hired a business coach. We talked about this behind the state, but backstage on Dragon Ship and stuff like this. I recently hired a business coach, and he's telling me, different various things to do. He's giving me some more direction with my content, and he wants me to start working on marketing and sales a little bit more. And some of the stuff that he's telling me, I start getting these doubts in my head. Like, can I do that? Am I even good enough for this? Like, he's giving me step by step. Hey, I've had other clients, they execute on X, Y, and Z, and they get these results. So I know consciously, if I execute on X, Y, and Z, I'm going to get these results, but my self-limiting beliefs start bubbling up to the top, right? It's like, oh, you can't do that. You've never done that before. You don't know what you're doing, right? That's how you know that's your paradigm is in disagreement with what you know you need to do. And that's where you know that you need to work on making some modifications. And you can do it. The book, I lay out all different ways that you can reprogram those types of things.
I love that. Yeah, no, it's so interesting because like recently, too, like with the levels of consciousness. I don't know if you've ever seen HOMAth. Love how I'm saying that. HOMAth
Yeah.
actually has a really great breakdown of it with like I guess it was like a custom levels of consciousness that he explained, and it actually breaks down like the sexual dynamics between or just any type of basic interaction between men and women, and why you get stuck at certain places and how difficult it is to be able to expand your mind to something further. And that's kind of what you're talking about. And I find levels of consciousness incredibly fascinating, and being able to, I guess, better equip yourself. Because like for me, that is a passive struggle that I have. It's an unconscious struggle of, I don't deserve this. This is ridiculous. Like, how am I here? And then self-destructive behaviors. And it's like, okay, well, maybe hold up. Maybe you do deserve to be here because you've done the work. So I'm
Yeah.
curious, and I'm gonna turn it to you, Kevin. What is your biggest self-limiting belief, or the biggest? Because for me, as I said, I make a good amount of money, yet I don't think I deserve that money. So then I can act recklessly at times with that money. That's one of the many self-limiting beliefs that I have that is corrupt and being worked on in my paradigm. What's one for you?
I would say probably my biggest one that I overcame was fear of failure. Just not even acting because I would play it in my mind that, well, this is how it's going to fail before I even looked at the good things. So fear of failure was always a very limited belief that I had. However, I was able to overcome that. And basically, especially like Paul was saying in sales and stuff that you never really went to school for, even a business degree doesn't teach you about sales. And you say, I've never done that before. And so you start psyching yourself out before you start putting yourself out there to be a coach, or, to help anybody, or in any way. Cause you're like, I don't know how to sell. What if they say no? What are they're going to tell their friends? And you you really have to, when it comes to sales, you have to have the confidence of a homeless person. Think about how many times a homeless person says, no, I don't have $1 for you, but he keeps asking and he keeps asking. And for all those no's that they hear, they might get 3 or 4 yeses. And so you have to kind of find that confidence inside of you. And I say that it's kind of as a joke, the confidence of the homeless person, but that's where I started to switch my paradigm of not even trying because, oh, I might fail, to starting saying, well, if I fail this time, I can do it better next time. It's all a learning experience. So I think that was probably my biggest limiting belief factor that I had for a long time, was fear of failure. And which is why, you don't want to start your own business. You got to stay in that bubble, at that paradigm that you were brought up and were ingrained that, okay, you go to work, you come home, you keep that steady job. If you try to do something else, you can lose the goddamn house, and you just have to overcome that through failure and then wins.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. I love that. And that's actually a perfect transition into the next question that I had for you, Paul. But before that, just want to give a shout out to Siege D. So, when will they all eventually get released? Brother, it's going to go on forever. We keep accumulating more people that want to write. The ideal like bulk of everything is going to be within 9-13 months. But this project is going to live on. This is not just Thor's legacy, it's our legacy. And we're going to completely change this space. And I'm just so excited for us to all be able to drop wisdom in this type of format. Because I want to do the exact same thing. I want to I want to have the entire rainbow collection of everything. And whenever I'm struggling in, let's say, for example, like the psychology realm or self-worth, paradigms, I can grab this book. Whenever I'm struggling in the gym and I need a touch up on physicality, I can grab that. Like, we're gonna have it all. So super excited for it. Just look out. We'll probably do bundles at some point. But this one specifically, Paul, it's going to be available September 14th, right?
Yeah, this Saturday. This Saturday it drops in paperback and hardcover. And if you can go to, I dropped the link in the private chat. I don't know if you want to share.
Yeah, I'm
that
going to
on
go ahead and
YouTube.
drop that right now, because if you guys want to, I'm throwing it out there. If you want to, you can go ahead and you can actually get the book for 99 cents.
Yeah, you can get it on Kindle for 99 cents right now until Saturday, because once Saturday hits, the price goes up on the Kindle edition. So this is just to get it out there, to get it in as many men's hands as possible so we can help as many men as possible.
Absolutely. Good stuff. So, Paul, I'm going to turn it to you. So when it comes to these paradigms, you describe it as a invisible lens. So how do men begin to identify their own limiting paradigms and start the process of shifting them? Because I know for me, it took a lot of introspection before I even got to the point where I was able to identify certain things. So like, how do you go about that?
Yeah, it's interesting because the way I describe it in a book is like that. You have an invisible like glasses on your face, and you didn't choose which glasses. Your parents slapped these glasses on your face, and so this is how you see the world, and you just think this is how the world is. You know, this is like it's like a fish being in water. It doesn't know it's in water because it's been in water its whole life, right? And so what tends to happen is bad things happen, right? Something bad happens that knocks those glasses off your face, and you're all of a sudden realizing, wait a second, it's not like I thought it was. That's a lot like the analogy of how we most of us find our way to the red pill space. You know, a lot of guys find their way to the red pill space through a series of painful events. You know, usually a bad breakup, bad divorce, girl cheats on them, something like that. And all of a sudden this pie in the sky, blue pilled worldview comes crashing down around us. And we're like, what happened? I thought we lived in Disney fairy tale land, but that's not how things are. Right. So most of the time, you're not even going to know. You're not going to really know that you have a paradigm that needs to be changed until something bad happens. I just dropped a clip. Well, actually, I scheduled a clip. It's going to drop here in about 30 minutes on TikTok, but it basically talks about this sort of thing, right? There's guys out there that have been through 2 divorces already. They've got a fiance for their third marriage. And they think that, oh, well, the first 2 chicks that I picked, well, they're just bad chicks, right? But they don't realize that they're the common denominator. And until they realize that they need to work on their own shit, they're going to be divorced. They're going to have a divorce number 3 in a couple of years, you know? So that's one way. Usually something bad happens that causes us to wake up to it. Other than that, it'll be things like I was talking about earlier, where, you know, I have my business coach telling me what I need to do, and I know I need to do it, but then I have these internal voices in my head screaming at me, you know, because the thing is about our brains, especially that ego protection layer, is that it doesn't want us to change. It doesn't. It likes us the way we are because it's designed to keep us alive. You know, its whole job is to keep us alive, and change might interrupt that. So when something gets us out of our comfort zone, makes us feel uncomfortable, that starts screaming at us, hey, you can't do that. This won't work. You're not good enough for that, right? When you have to be consciously aware, though, right? Most of us aren't aware of that kind of stuff. We just hear that and immediately back down from whatever thing it is that we know we need to do. We'll make up some excuse. We'll go MGTOW and say, I'm happy single, right?
Oh my God. Yeah,
Right?
there's so many people like that.
But it's bullshit. It's that's their ego protection layer, trying to keep them alive and keep them from changing and doing what they need to do to make positive changes in their life. So those are just a couple of ways to identify that.
I like that. And I saw that you do talk about affirmations as well, and we'll get into that in a little bit, because affirmations personally have completely changed my life. They got me out of one of the darkest places I was at for a while, and I've used it with clients. And as soon as they start doing it, well, they shortly thereafter do not become my clients anymore. Not because they don't like it, but because they finally see the success that they were looking for. But I wanted to ask you, because you're talking about in the book about Fred Bodie and Bob Proctor.
Mhm.
Who are these people, and like why are they important?
Yeah, so Fred Bodie, if you guys haven't read my first book, you probably don't know who he is, but he was my karate sensei growing up. When I was in, I think, fourth grade is when I was bugging my parents enough to put me in karate, that my mom finally went shopping around to all the karate schools, and she was really big on finding a sensei like Mr. Miyagi, right? That was her thing. There was a karate school that was really close to us. We lived in Conifer, Colorado, and there was a karate dojo up there. And we went in there, and it was hardwood floors. They were, parents weren't allowed to stay for class, all this kind of stuff. It was all about, they were all about getting ready for tournaments, and there's nothing wrong with any of that kind of stuff. But my mom really wanted a guy like Mr. Bodie, who was like, karate's for self-defense, And so she found this karate dojo down in Denver. So it was like an hour commute to go to karate every day. And it cost a lot of money, but my mom's like, God damn it, if I'm paying for it, we're going every day. So we would go down there every day after school. And yeah, Mr. Bodie was very much like that. His philosophy was on karate's only for self-defense. And one of the big things that I point out in the book is the leadership rules that he taught us, and the black belt rules. And the leadership rules were affirmations. He didn't call them affirmations; they were rules, right? But they were affirmations we would read before class, and then we'd read the black belt rules after class. And I didn't realize it until I got older and started studying paradigms and learning from Bob Proctor that Mr. Bodie was making us do affirmations. There was a time where my grades were bad, and we used to have to bring our report cards down to the dojo, and if our grades were bad, he wouldn't let us practice. And
Oh, I
my
love
grade,
that.
yeah, so my
That's awesome.
grades were bad, and so he goes, he goes, just like the leadership rules and the black belt rules, I want you to write, I'm a good student. I study every day. I pay attention in class. I always ask questions when I don't understand. Just stuff like that. And he goes, I want you to read it in the morning 5 times, and I want you to read it at night before you go to bed 5 times. And he's like, just do it every day for a month. And he's like, I guarantee your grades are going to change. And I was like, okay. So I did. I put them up in my bedroom and did that. And sure enough, my grades turned around. I didn't have any idea why. I was just trusting in the process, right? Well, I learned later that's because he was having us do an exercise that reprograms our subconscious mind, and our subconscious controls our actions. So if you tell yourself stuff like that, I am a good student, I study every day, I listen to my teacher, I ask questions when I don't understand, you start doing those things, right? Because that's just what you start doing. It's just your subconscious, running a program. And then Bob Proctor, if you guys have ever watched the movie The Secret, it came out in 2006. He's one of the speakers in that movie. He's the first guy that pops up. He's an old man, and he's the one that explains what the law of attraction is at the very beginning. And I'm really big into the woo-woo law of attraction and stuff like that. But the way Bob Proctor describes it is unlike anybody else. He breaks it down into simple psychology. Even though he does like to talk about like the laws of the universe, and the laws of the universe are so precise that we can land a man on the moon within a fraction of the second. All that kind of stuff is good. He talks about vibrations a lot. But really, his big focus is in reprogramming your paradigm. And if you want to take out all the mysticism and take out the religion and the quantum physics and the vibrations, that's really what it comes down to, is simple psychology, reprogramming your subconscious mind to believe that you can achieve things. And the thing is that, between one person and another, there's not really a big difference. Like anything that anybody else can do, you can do. Right. But there is a big difference in people's results in life. And that all comes down to your paradigm. So if you can realize like, hey, this guy is doing it, I want to do that same thing. And you start trying to do what that guy's doing. And you all of a sudden have these, self-limiting beliefs coming up in your head. Those are how you identify some of those paradigms that need to be changed. And you could do it with things like affirmations.
It's a great point. And that doesn't mean just mimicking somebody else's behavior, because I've seen that, and we talk about that, especially with multiple different coaches in this space, is that essentially guys come in, they find somebody that they really resonate with, and then they just cling to them and they do everything exactly the same way that person does or say that they do, but then they don't get anywhere. So be careful of that. But I love the thing about affirmations, because back in 2017, when I had to move back home with my parents for a brief period of time, it was affirmations every time before I was going out, because I was going out solo for a complete year because my friends at the time were losers. And the friends that weren't losers did not live in the area. So before going out, affirmations like, all women want to be with me. People like hanging out with me. Like, I am the life of the party. Like, stupid crap. It's mainly the woman stuff, but I won't get into that. That's more the stuff that I do with clients. But it works. And it's like weird how it works. And especially when you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're looking at yourself like straight in the eye, and you're talking to this person, but you're actually talking to yourself. And it's the easiest way to go ahead and hit that subconscious. So I love affirmations personally.
Oh, I did the same thing before I got into the podcasting, when I was studying all the sexual dynamic stuff and I was out spinning plates. I would listen to affirmations that I recorded myself. I still do this, by the way, but they were just different then. But I listen to affirmations all night long. I have sleep headphones that I put on, and I listen to affirmations all night, because when you're sleeping, those affirmations go directly into your subconscious, right? You don't have your conscious brain shut down for the night, but your conscious never sleeps, or your subconscious never sleeps. So I listen to that stuff. And the things I would tell myself is, I'm the most handsome man in Colorado. Women are always checking me out. Women hit on me. Women approach me. And the thing is that when you believe that, right? And that's what we're doing. We're programming these beliefs deep into our subconscious. When you believe that, what happens is your reticular activating system kicks in and you start seeing this shit. Because it's not that it wasn't happening before, you just weren't noticing it, right? We have this filter called the reticular activating system that focuses on what we think is important, or what our subconscious thinks is important, right? And so if you're not noticing, you're not programmed to noticing that kind of stuff, your brain filters it all out, because your brain's just taking in all this information constantly, just millions and millions of sensory, inputs are coming in at any given second. And if your brain process all of it, you go insane, right? So it filters out a lot of this stuff, and you can test it out right now, right? If I say, hey, look around your room and find something red, you'll look around and you'll find, like, I don't know, 15 different red things in your room. You probably didn't necessarily notice they were there, but now that you're looking for it, you'll find them, right?
I found one.
Yeah, bingo.
I got Winnie the Pooh.
So the same thing happens when you tell yourself these truths, right? Like, women are always checking me out. I'm the most handsome man. You're going to walk around with your head, you're going to walk around with a more confident body language, right? You're going to be making eye contact with women because you're going to expect them to be checking you out. And guess what? They are going to be checking you out, and you are going to notice it. and all of a sudden you're going to be like, holy shit. It's like magic. It's like I made all these women like me. No. They were checking you out anyway. You just didn't notice it before.
I love that. No, and it's so true. It really does. Like, I would not go out, because I really did. I went out solo for an entire year by myself. Like, sometimes I would get some friends on one of the Fridays or Saturdays, But I just found a local place, and I would just go by myself, walking into this bar completely alone, and just make the friends. And if I didn't do the affirmations, it would be a wash night. But if I did the affirmations, and the more I continued to do the affirmations week by week, the more things changed. Now,
Mhm.
the way that I do affirmations may be different than you, and I'm curious about that, because the way that I do affirmations, I don't necessarily think that uh, morning and night matters. Um, I personally like to do them before a big event, whatever that event may be, or whatever I perceive it to be. Like, again, going out solo, going out completely alone to a bar where I know nobody. I would do it before the event. And the way I would do it is I would take a phrase of what I really want to channel that night. So,
Mm.
as I was saying, all women want to be with me. And I would repeat that 5 times. And as I'm saying it to myself, look at myself in the eye, I would raise the smile on my face. So not only am I associating like happiness and like this is silly because it's the truth. Um, I just it kind of compounded those two things together, and then it almost always just kind of helped. And then again, as you do it in repetition, it's almost like turning a switch, turning on until the
Mhm.
point that I stopped because I had it already. It became my paradigm.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I say morning and night, you can do it that way too, the way you said it. But the reason why I say morning and night is because when you first get up in the morning and you're kind of groggy, you have better access to better direct access to your subconscious mind when you're first getting up, because your conscious mind hasn't fully woken up yet. So if you read it when you first get up in the morning, direct access to your subconscious mind. And then when you go to bed at night, if you read them right before bed, your mind tends to grind away on the last thing you feed it before you go to bed. So that's why I say that. I explain that in the book. But yeah, I mean, if it's working for you, because a lot of times too, it's really that repetition, right? That constant repetition, and also an emotional investment into the affirmation is really what cements it in your subconscious mind. So the fact that you're putting that smile and that happy emotion into the affirmation, that is really what locks it into the subconscious mind. Um, and a lot of people don't understand that, because we're supposed to be rational in the red pill space, because the rational male, I don't know if you've ever read that, but we're not supposed to have emotions as men.
Not allowed to. Not allowed
Yeah,
to.
no, but
At least not
that's
showing.
but that's the truth though. It's that emotional connection to the affirmation that really cements it in there. So that's why and I mentioned it in the book too. What I learned from Bob Proctor is it's good to add "I'm grateful for" to your affirmation, because gratitude is a very powerful emotion. So is love, right? Gratitude and love are probably the two most powerful emotions that you can tie to an affirmation. It's just easy to be grateful for stuff. And I like to write my affirmations as if it's already happened. And I like to use I am commands as much as possible, because an I am command
Mhm.
is a direct command to your subconscious mind, and it's tied to your identity. So when you have an identity, a belief about your identity, it's very strong. So if you say I am attractive, I am the most attractive man here, right? That is, you're telling yourself, hey, I believe this about myself. This is my identity. I'm an attractive man. So that's how I like to do it.
I
Yeah,
like
and
that.
I think it's really important
Go
too
ahead, Kevin.
to do that. Don't just say I'm an attractive man or every woman wants me right before you're getting ready to go out. When you're dressed to the nines, your hair's looking perfect, do it all the time. And repetition is what is going to subconsciously change that paradigm. It's like the law, 40 laws of power, number 25. Don't be afraid to reinvent yourself. But you really have to deep dive into what that means. Reinventing yourself is not just a new haircut or a new makeup or, new makeover of starting to wear different clothes that you think is more stylish. It starts up here. To reinvent yourself, you have to change that paradigm. And it takes repetition, like we've been talking about with your affirmations or your power moves. When you're getting ready to something, form a power move and make that click something in your mind. When you make that power move, when you're getting ready to do something difficult or something scary, it'll click it and it'll change that mindset like that. And that brings me to a question that I had for you, Paul, about the book is, when it says you recommend to read the book 10 or 15 times. Why is that? Where did you learn that from? Is it because of like the affirmations of read? Because I can agree with that. I'll read a book and then usually get it on Audible and listen to it 3 or 4 more times. And I always learn something new. Is that where you're going with that?
Yeah, kind of. So this is something I learned from Corey Wayne, from Coach Corey Wayne, because I've read How to Be a 3% Man. I just finished my 22nd read of that. But one of the things that he says in there is that we only retain about 10 to 15% of what we read on a when we're consuming books. We only retain about 10% of it. So if you really want to master that knowledge, you got to read it at least 10 times to get 100% of it. But Bob Proctor, he took it a step further. See, he read the book Think and Grow Rich every single day for over 60 years. He read that same book over and over again. And I was just reading one of his books a couple months ago called You Were Born Rich. And the thing he said in there was when he first was handed Think and Grow Rich, he said that he had $6,000 of debt and only $4,000. He only made $4,000 a year, right? And he this one guy was like, "Man, you're always struggling. Do you want to know a better way?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." He's like, "Read this book. Just read this book and apply what's in it." So Bob was like, "I don't even know how to read." The guy's like, "Learn how to read and read this book." Because this guy always had money, didn't have health issues, had his life in order. Hands Bob this book. So Bob starts reading this book, and Bob was so enthralled by this book, he couldn't put it down. And within 5 years, he had a floor cleaning business that was spread out through New York, I think Toronto, and in London, England. He was making millions of dollars a year doing floor cleaning. And he's like, "How the hell did I get here?" He was in a casino. He used to be a member of the Playboy Club, I think, in London. And he's there, he's gambling, and he's just sitting there pondering, like, how the hell did I get here? He's like, 5 years ago, I couldn't rub 2 pennies together to make a nickel. Like what happened? And he was being real frivolous with his money because he's like, I make money. Like, I don't have a problem making money now. I don't really care, but how did I get here? And what he realized was that he was reading Think and Grow Rich, but he was also listening to these records by the Nightingale Conant Company. A guy named, I can't think of his name. His last name's Nightingale. Anyway, he had basically a condensed version of Think and Grow Rich called The Strangest Secret. And Bob was listening to that every single night, and he was having his employees listen to it every single night, just on repeat. And he was also reading Think and Grow Rich. And what he realized was that just by reading the book on repeat and listening to those records on repeat, that by itself was changing his paradigm. And then I thought about it because I've read How to Be a 3% Man so many times that, yeah, once you, every guy that I know that has read that book 10 to 15 times fucking kills it with women, right? There's a reason why Coach Corey Wayne has as many, hundreds of thousands of followers on YouTube, and why his book's a #1 bestseller is because it fucking works. And when he tells you to read it 10 to 15 times, he's not trying to make you a nerd. He's trying to reprogram that subconscious mind so that you are the 3% man. It becomes a part of who you are. And so I was like, if this is a book on paradigms and it's about reprogramming your subconscious mind to have a more dominant masculine presence, you need to read this at least 10 to 15 times. It's going to seep in, and it's going to start changing. It's going to be weird for you. Earl Nightingale. Thank you, Nurse Chick. Yeah. So that's why I challenged the reader, and it's near the end of the book. Once you get near the end of the book, I'm like, by the way, if you just read this book multiple times and listen to it on Audible, it's going to reprogram that subconscious mind for you.
No, that's why I asked that question, because I completely agree with that. I've seen in several different places, the average CEO reads 55 books a year. And what I think about that is, okay, he reads 55 books. And like you said, he probably remembers a quote out of 3 of them because he's just burning through books and moving on. It's not like watching a movie. I mean, reading is something that I learned this in school, especially in college, that I needed to read that paragraph twice to really grasp what was going on. So I completely agree with the philosophy of, instead of worrying about how many books you read, find the book that really resonates you. And what will impress me is how many times you've read it. And almost to the point where you can quote a paragraph in a chapter on a page, because that's when it really sinks in, because our brains, especially as we get older, short-term memory goes faster and faster. So that's why I totally agree with that. Any book that resonates with you, read it more and more, because it's like going to a very powerful convention. Remember, like a Tony Robbins event, or if you're into real estate, the real estate conventions that they have, everybody's there, they're crying, they're very pumped up. Talk to them 2 weeks later after that. They're right back in the same routine that they were before they went to that convention or that real estate event, because it's very powerful in the moment, but then you go back and you basically dump everything and you go back into your same routine. So if you find something that's helpful for you, especially a book or a video or something like that, watch it every day. Once you finish it, you don't have to read it over and over and over, but by chapter with another book. So that way I would say pick 5 books a year and make sure you read those books 10 times instead of reading just 52 books a year, because that doesn't impress me, because then I will ask you something about it and you won't be able to tell me. But if you've read that book 10 times, I can guarantee you we can have a great discussion about it.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point. Sorry, Paul, I just want to hop in here. It's an interesting point. I almost wonder if that's why so many young men are lost today. They're so lost because it's just an influx of TikTok and Instagram and short form content. There's no consistency in them forming or adjusting an identity. They're just getting bombarded with so much that they don't even know who they are.
Yeah, that's quite possible. We live in a too long didn't read generation. No one wants to actually take time to read a book anymore. I was talking to Aaron Clary. We were talking about writing books, and his books are real short. And he goes, yeah, because no one wants to read a full book anymore. People are too lazy. And it's like, yeah, it's really unfortunate, but that's why you get Audible. And that's why this book's going to be available on Audible.
That's why my book, The First Text, was so short, little tiny guy here, because it's a guide and it gets to the point and lets everybody go from there. But that's a good point that Aaron made, because it's true. Yeah. It's true. Everybody. But when something really resonates with you, I mean, I'm thinking about it right now. God, I love the Titanic. I love Fight Club. My 2 favorite movies, Titanic and Fight Club. I know.
Yeah, I was almost going to call you GHEY for that first one, but you saved yourself with Fight Club. Okay.
But like, I've seen those movies over 10 times, if not over 30 times each. And it does make sense when you're doing that repetition to kind of go in the direction you want to go. So instead of scrolling through Instagram or TikTok and looking at like the hateful type of crap, maybe spend that time doing something else. Otherwise, you may not be realizing it, but you're moving towards a darker direction. So if you're focusing your time listening to stuff like Paul with your podcast, which is what, Monday, Wednesday, Friday?
Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's right. Yeah. At the
Perfect.
Come On Man podcast.
So if you're listening to Come On Man podcast, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m., and you're also putting in other information like the Dragon Ship and some of the other stuff like Tony Robbins, and those types of things that are pushing people forward, well, there's nothing you can do but get carried with the wave and go forward.
Yeah. And what's funny is people do this in a negative direction too, right? A lot of guys they gravitate to the space and they get sucked into the real negative stuff, the black pill stuff, the MGTOW stuff, where it's just, oh, let's hold women accountable. Let's shit on women. Let's, talk about why women ain't shit. It's like, that stuff is negatively impacting your paradigms. It's creating a paradigm of lack and limitation where you're only going to see hoes and 304s and skanks out there. And it's like, there's lots of great women, but you'll never see them because you're focused on all this negativity.
Yeah. Wait, you're 32. Oh, you're a has-been. You can't. And I think that the black pill is what created MGTOW. It came from that ideology of all women bad. And that's when my book comes out. It's going to be later in the series, but it's graduating the manosphere and evolving from the red pill. Still keeping red pill ideology. However, you have to get out of that mind, that black pill mindset, which is so misunderstood with red pill nowadays, that women bad, she's got to be 21 to 24 years old, no kids, never had sex, and doesn't say a cuss word. If she's not that, she's a leftover. She's has been. There's no good women out there other than those types of women. And if you can't find this, then you're going to go MGTOW and you're just going to live your life lonely. So, and that's where I'm afraid of the space, because the manosphere started out as a good tool for men to get their masculinity back. However, it has jumped the shark and gone in a totally different direction for some guys.
Yeah, well, the thing about manosphere, Ian Ironwood has a book on this, a book called The Manosphere, actually, the history of the manosphere. The term manosphere was actually coined by a feminist magazine, right, to group all of us together and judge us by us worst actors. Well, black pill and MGTOW are our worst actors, and we're being judged by it. And it's a lot of people just don't understand, even if you subscribe to red pill praxeology, that you're supposed to be your own mental point of origin, So just because Rich Cooper says don't date single moms, that doesn't mean that you can't date single moms. Like if that's a good choice for you, but you got to figure out what's best for you. Most guys don't know what they want and what's good for them, So they just listen to what they're being told, Oh, tattoos are bad. I personally love tattoos. Nurse chick has a full sleeve, hot as hell. I don't give a shit.
I mean, I have terrible tattoos. I have all the douchebag tattoos that I got in my 20s. I have tribal on my arm, the Chinese on my back. So how I'm going to judge another girl that, oh, you've got tattoos. Oh, you're a red flag.
You got a butterfly in your lower back?
I'm in the process of having that one removed. So I technically, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, sometimes you want to think that everybody in tooting us up is everybody's on the same mental capacity as some of us leaders in some of these groups. But I'm finding out more and more, most don't. And the younger they are and they're finding the wrong content, it only sets them up for failure later on. And that's what's so scary about the space nowadays, because you do have the black pillars, you do have the traditional red pillars, which basically you go into everything with a realistic mind. You don't let Disney or rom-coms fuck up your perception of what can happen in a relationship or how you're supposed to act in a relationship. And so if you find the wrong one too early, it will definitely make you part of the MGTOW group that doesn't want to try just because all women are bad. I know we kind of went off on a tangent there. I had one question about you write about balancing alpha beta, and I think that's a good way to go into this question. Alpha beta traits in men, how to balance that. How does a man's paradigm shift affect the balance of these traits, and why is that balance important to you?
Well, a balance, I think, is important. It's one of the things I learned from Athol Kay's book, The Married Man's Sex Life Primer, because he really breaks this down probably better than anyone else. But Rollo talks about it, right? Alpha fucks, beta bucks. Well, the thing is, women want both. They want alpha, a strong, attractive alpha guy. And they also want a guy that'll be there when they have kids. They'll take care of the kids, right? So that's like the beta side of hypergamy. A lot of guys are like, I'm a provider. I make money and I provide for this family. That's the beta side of hypergamy. She does want that, right? The thing is that if you don't maximize the alpha side, you're gonna end up in a dead bedroom. So a lot of guys, that's important for them to have a physical intimacy in their relationships, right? That's kind of the glue that holds the relationship together. But for guys, it's very important. A lot of guys might delude themselves and say, "Oh, that's not as important for me. I just like spending time with my best friend and stuff like that."
Bullshit.
Right. That's all great until you've been married for 15 years and she hasn't fucked you in 5, right? Then all of a sudden it's a big deal, right? Well, that's because you let your beta side become your primary and your alpha side's gone by the wayside and she doesn't trust you to lead that relationship. So if you want to have a healthy relationship, you need to optimize those alpha traits, those leadership qualities in the relationship. You need to learn how to set the tone and lead and not be afraid of your woman's emotions and all that kind of stuff. You need to have some of that emotional control because she needs you to be her rock. It doesn't work the other way around. So, so as far as like a balance goes, I like to look at it more like it's an 80-20 split. You want an 80% alpha side and have a 20% beta. You want to sprinkle a little beta on it, but yeah, I mean, all that kind of stuff, you need to develop that kind of mindset, that kind of mentality about how relationship dynamics need to be. Because most of us are raised with a happy wife, happy life. If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy type dynamic. And then what you end up doing, or they believe in a egalitarian partnership. And the thing is when you believe in the egalitarian partnership, you tend to defer to your girl's authority more. And next thing you know, she's running the relationship. And then you're like, what happened? I thought we were equal partners. No, she doesn't trust you to lead now. So, so I like to, I subscribe to more of a captain executive officer type relationship where you're the captain. She's the XO. XO has, excellent valid input sometimes, right? That she's your trusted, sidekick there. So if she has good ideas, take them under advisement, but you're ultimately leading this, you're ultimately driving this ship as the captain. So that's sort of the narrative that I'm portraying in the psychology paradigm book.
That's good stuff. Well, guys, we're running a little late. I could talk about this stuff forever, and I would really, really like to, but we got to hop to the Dragons meeting. Paul, this is coming out. Kindle, you can do pre-sale, 99 cents, and then it's on September 14th that you can get it in actual paperback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you go to if you want to be notified immediately when it's out, go to list.comeonmanpod.com, sign up for my email list. You can also, when you sign up for my email list, I also have an ebook, a free ebook there called She's Made You Weak. It breaks down the betatization process, which is what usually happens in a relationship when you find yourself in a dead bedroom. So you can go there, get that. And then I'll send out an email as soon as it's available on Saturday morning. So you can go ahead and click the link and get it.
Awesome. I'm so excited, man. I mean, I've already read some of it. I haven't finished it, sorry, but I have read some of it. And yeah, whoa. But I've already read some of it, and it's absolutely fantastic. And guys, this is the best way to start the series. The essential skills of a masculine presence. Well, how about we look at first where you sit in your paradigm and what you could potentially change. Good stuff. Well, thank you, Paul. Thank you, everybody. Guys, always make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you're not, and check out Paul every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. I got that right. 10 a.m. Eastern time on his channel. He talks about a lot of this stuff, and man, I love the woo-woo stuff too. And I think I'm going to be watching. I got to watch the debate tonight, but I am going to finally watch The Secret. And I'm intrigued to see. Should I watch the whole thing, or is it just the opening scene? No,
watch all of it. It's great. Yeah, the whole thing's great. Yeah.
All right, I can't wait. All right, until next time, guys. Thank you, and peace out.
See you next week.